Welcome back to another web development podcast episode where we help aspiring developers get jobs and junior developers grow. In this episode, we're going to be talking about how to become a technical writer and what that even means, what your day-to-day is like. So I invited one on. I hope I don't butcher it. Kailana?
Kailana.
Kailana, that's right.
Yes.
I know I was going to butcher it. So I brought Kailana on to talk more about her journey and, what it's like being one. She's going to provide some advice, but yeah, Kailana, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
So, who are you? What do you do? Give it a little bit of an intro.
Yeah, so my name is Kailana. I'm a technical writer at Acquire. We basically have a customer engagement platform, so I write a lot of the documentation for that.
Okay. How long have you been doing that?
I was first hired February of 2021, so more than a year now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess walk me through, because it looks like I have your LinkedIn pulled up on the side. You were a technical writer before at a previous company too, right?
I did a little bit of tech writing there. So I would say it was a more like tech writing role where there's like a lot of marketing involved. So I pretty much wrote like maybe like blog posts and promotional things for hackathons. That's what I did before coming to this role.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
For hackathons too. That's pretty cool. Well, let's actually expand on that. So walk me through kind of your journey. Feel free to share your old industry as well, but how did you become a technical writer?
So I was a teacher before this. I was an English teacher, and there was just an opportunity to move to Seattle, where I am right now. And I started looking into like, what could I do there? And I was pretty sure I was like, I don't want to do teaching again. It was like, I just figured out like it wasn't really for me. And then I heard about like coding boot camps here, and that's when I started looking into coding boot camps. I did the Flatiron program, and then after that, I did Democracy Lab, which is the hackathon service that I started writing marketing material for, and then eventually I was hired by Acquire.
Gotcha. So when you went through the coding boot camp, was your goal to become a software engineer?
Yeah, I think so. I think I had a really interesting vision of what a software engineer was in my head. So I thought they like controlled the whole process, which is like really ridiculous now that I look back. But no, they don't control like the whole process of making the product and bringing it to market. Like, no, they don't do that. But that's what I had thought like as I went into it. And as I learned more about it, maybe like UX and UI design was something I should have done, like looked at more. But I did the whole thing. So there it is.
Yeah. Oh wait, Flatiron. I'm thinking of something else. I was thinking like your program is like 9 months long, but.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, so why didn't you start steering towards like a product manager? Why UX design?
Why I wanted to get into software development was because as a teacher, I used a lot of products that I guess we were mandated to use, and they were just some of the most awful experiences. Like I tried to put like students' grades in, and the system would like not save it, and there was like no warning message. It would just like drop, and I was like, I just put in like 30 students' grades. Now I have to do it all over again. Oh, there were like just so many other design things. I thought I think I could like write this thing better than the people who designed it did. So that's like really what pushed me into like learning more about development and coding and things like that. So yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good. I'm glad you didn't shy away from wanting to change your old industry software. And I think a lot of us can relate to that. So I guess I'm just trying to put it together a little bit. You essentially wanted to make probably more of a usable product. So maybe yes. UX and design kind of attracted you in that way. Mm-hmm. And then you went and became a technical writer.
Yeah.
What made you decide to go that route? Because that almost seems like a little bit of a pivot.
Mm-hmm. I just always liked writing. I have an English degree, so it kind of like really made a lot of sense. And as I like coded during the boot camp, I realized like I don't want to be doing this for like 8 hours straight every day, just looking at code. I like it as kind of like a hobby or something I can do to like automate some work things, but just like coding every day was not what made me happy. And like writing has always really just made me happy. So it made a lot of sense. And just to apply that technical aspect of like, I had done like the software engineering program. So like just being able to apply that to my writing right now is like, I think really like great. And yeah, I can also the education part. So I can like kind of break down these like technical concepts for like pretty much basic customers who might not have those tech savvy skills. So I think like kind of everything fell into place to be a technical writer. I get to like help kind of like have a say in what the product kind of is like on the product side. Cause I sit on the product team at my company. So I can kind of say, okay, maybe like we should think about like this use case. And I also write the documentation, and I also maybe like do some more like developer documentation as well, such as like APIs and things like that. So everything kind of just like is like a really good like fit for me, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you kind of found that synergy, especially with what you loved to do previously. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm still trying to understand technical writing, and it sounds like so you're focused on the product team. So you're essentially building out a lot of the documentation around the product that both users are going to see, and even what your developers are going to see in the back end, right? Okay. Walk me through a little bit more of your day-to-day as a technical writer. Like, are you 95% of the day just writing all this documentation? Is it like a lot of meetings? What's your day-to-day like?
I wouldn't say I write like 95%. No. A lot of it, I guess it can change a lot because I do work at a startup, and like things are always changing at startups as well. I will say that when I first got in, I wrote a lot of articles designed for users of the product. So it's like, what happens when you click this button, or what happens when you use this setting, and a lot of things like that. So a lot of like the articles on our help base, I wrote, and like eventually we had like almost like more than 100 articles that like for each like component of our product. Wow. So that's kind of what I did. So that's what I managed, like our help base. And if we have like a new release, I'll go in and like change up the articles or anything like that. And also we have product releases every week. So I also write the documentation for that. So I say, okay, this ticket came out, it helps this customer, things like that. So I guess like it's hard to pigeonhole what a technical writer exactly does, because it's so different across like companies and things like that. And even across industries, people like reach out to me like, do you want to work for this? And like, no, I don't know how to write for pharmaceutical companies. Like I'm very like tech focused. So yeah, I think, yeah, it's maybe like, this is just my experience here.
Okay. That's interesting. So do you feel like companies consider people for those types of positions when it synergizes with their old industry, when they actually know the industry? Because you mentioned pharmaceutical is kind of out of your wheelhouse. Yeah.
I think there are like certain times a technical writer can write for that kind of thing, but I guess they would just have that like experience or maybe a certification for that. I think there's a lot of ways to apply like that kind of writing to different like aspects, because there's technical writers everywhere, right? Like government and like just so many things. I think just like having good writing skills can kind of like help you succeed if you want to be a technical writer. Honestly, I think it's really strong on the writing skills.
how do you prove that? How do you prove you have good writing skills?
Yeah. So I had a blog. So I know you interviewed Flatiron students. So one of your career search requirements was like writing a blog, and like a lot of my classmates thought like, oh, we don't want to do this, but like I loved it because like, oh my gosh, this is so much fun. Yeah, I love taking screenshots of my projects and just like explaining like, okay, I made this decision because of whatever, like I use this like library because ooh, and then I just give the reason why. But yeah, it really helped me like discover who I was as like an engineer, almost like writing those blog posts. And like I even looked back at it today and was like, oh, okay, I actually knew how to use that library at one point. I don't think I so now, but yeah.
That's pretty cool. I mean,
yeah.
I'm sure a lot of your other classmates weren't too keen on it, but just even as a software engineer, just being able to document your process and expose that and show employers, how you're even thinking. It skipped me through most of my technical portions in my interview. It's really powerful. Not a lot of people want to do it, including me. I hate writing, but I did it because it was effective. That's interesting. Okay, so a blog. Do you create video content?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, so I also do some of the instructional design for the product as well. So yeah, I just make like a library of videos teaching people how to use our product. And also there's kind of a course I've made with other coworkers, also teaching people how to use the product. Okay.
That's pretty cool. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, it is fun. I do enjoy it. It is a lot of work. Like you think like a 1-minute video is going to take like maybe an hour to like, no, it's going to take like maybe like at least 5 hours, depending on what you want in it.
I mean, talking even with other YouTubers that are doing course content that write essentially like tutorials. It's exponentially more than the actual edited version. Yes. It takes a long time. Mm-hmm. Huh. Okay. That's pretty cool. So you essentially own this entire kind of front-facing documentation and tutorials and courses that, teach both your user base and, even just employees in the company how to effectively use your product. I can say for certain there's a big difference as a software engineer working for a company with poor documentation and great documentation. A very big difference. So I appreciate you for what you do is essentially what I'm trying to say. But who do you think, you kind of mentioned that you have to enjoy writing, but if someone were to watch this video or listen to the episode, how could they identify that they might really enjoy this? Is it just you enjoy writing blog posts or?
Yeah, I think anybody who enjoys writing a blog post, especially if they're trying to teach somebody something, would really enjoy technical writing. I do think in order to do like this kind of job where I write about this software product that has a bunch of different components, I think you would need a little bit of that background that I got from the software engineering bootcamp to be able to like just know how to know about like CRUD and APIs and how like systems talk to each other. I think that would be important. So if somebody's like really interested in being a technical writer, I don't think you need to do a boot camp for it. I would probably not do that. But there are like so many other programs I've seen before, such as like a master's course if you have like a bachelor's degree, doing like a master's program for that, or even like just like online courses I've seen. So I think there's a bunch of different routes to getting into it.
What would you have done if you didn't go to a coding boot camp to get to this?
I think I would have done the UI UX design. Maybe not the bootcamp, like there's like that Google course now that you can do as well. But I think that would really prepare me for just thinking about how people use software products. I think that's really important when you write like user guides, like how is somebody going to use this and like what is their use case going to be? Is that going to change based on the customer, and what pain points can they run into, like all of those things you might want to consider when you're writing this technical documentation.
Gotcha. Interesting. Okay. I didn't really think about it in that way. If you were to learn, okay, I guess I'm going to push this a bit.
Yeah.
So UX and UI is what you probably would have focused on.
Yes.
I guess just to clarify, would that have been more helpful than a coding bootcamp? Focus on software engineering?
I don't know if I could say for sure now that I'm on this side of the, I don't know, river, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how I want to describe that. But I think kind of just going further and maybe developing things more on the product side, I think UX UI is maybe more of something you want to focus on, not even just like technical writing, but like product writing and copywriting for the product. You really want to consider like who's using a product and how long like should a message be. Like you want to, maybe you have to be kind of like detail oriented in that fact, and really just like, yeah, because we look at like software products all the time, and there's like so many different messages we're in contact with, and then some of like you don't really remember the good experiences, right? Like using software, you remember like the really bad ones. So that's what like you want to stay away from when you're like creating like products and things like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
What I guess the more you describe it, it sounds kind of like a copywriting position a little bit, and it sounds like it is UX focused. What actually makes it a technical writing position? Is it the responsibility of writing, I guess, documentation for developers specifically? Like, what if you took that out and you're just writing essentially like product documentation? Is that still a technical writing position?
I think product documentation would still be considered like technical writing in that kind of realm, because there are a lot of like companies looking for people who can write both like the customer facing side of things. So writing like user guides in that kind of way, and also writing like developer documentation, like, I don't know, something like, okay, these are the things that we need in the product and things like that. So yeah, I think don't be discouraged if you're like, think that technical writing is a very like clinical, like those big like stacks of documents and big manuals that you never read, you just throw out when you get like the software product. It's way more than that. And I think a lot of companies, especially like in tech, they want people who can write and make it an enjoyable experience to read too, because like they don't want to sit through like that big like document thing, right? They want like this short and sweetest story, and then like if they need the details, they can dive into like the rest of it.
Yeah, I mean the way you're even describing it, it sounds a lot less cold. It sounds friendly and warm and like really understanding your users. Because when I thought of a technical writer, I just thought it was like writing documentation for developers. It sounds like something I might enjoy if I did go that route. What do you hate about it?
What do I hate about it? I don't think there's anything really specific I hate about technical writing. Gosh, I guess I'll just like put some advice out there. Is like, I was like so against like using software products to like look at my grammar and writing and stuff, but actually it's been really great and I use it every day now. Yeah, so something like that, I guess, just like the English portion of it. Yeah, don't be, I guess, too, like everybody can benefit from those kinds of tools. So yeah, don't be too like, oh, I don't need that tool, I'm already great. Like, yeah, just use those tools, they're there, and if they're free, like, yeah, I'd use it.
I use one. I don't know what it's called, but yeah, it doesn't tell me. But yeah, highly recommend it. Anyone that's writing
spell checkers or things like that. Yeah.
Do you is there an opportunity to use any AI tools to help formulate some of the bulk of your writings?
Not really. No, I wouldn't say there's anything like that right now, especially just looking into it. No. What I do, though, for the knowledge base, if I need to, like, say, like, I update an article or I delete an article, that article there might be a link to that article in a different article. And it like when you have like 100 plus articles to like sift through, like you're never going to find it on your own, right? So what I did was I wrote like a web scraping script to help me just like find all the articles with like 404 errors. So that was like, that's something like, that's how I automate my life like that. Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty convenient.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess just having those skills like really helped me do that kind of stuff.
Okay. It almost speaks more to, I think, coding and just even getting comfortable with like low code solutions to automate your workflow. I think it helps out a lot of different positions, even if you're not in a coding position. Mm-hmm. Okay. I think I have a pretty good feel for it. I'm going to challenge us one more time.
Okay.
And I'm going to reword this. What could people potentially dislike about being a technical writer?
I think you'll need to really develop, again, I heard this like every podcast you made, your soft skills. Because you need to talk to engineers, you need to talk to the people supporting your customers, you'll need to talk to product management, you'll need to talk to marketing, and just managing all of those different relationships. It can be a lot at times. And I've talked to other technical writers where they're so frustrated that the engineer just wouldn't give them the documentation they needed to do their project. And like, yeah, it's really frustrating if that happens. So yeah, that's something I've heard a lot from technical writers is that, yeah, just building those relationships with all of the different people involved is just like so important, maybe even more important than, I wouldn't say being able to write, but like being like the best writer there was. So if you had a choice, I guess like somebody who can build those relationships would be better than somebody who can just like, who's written like, I don't know, the best technical writing document ever or something. Yeah.
That's good to know. So it sounds like if you're not really a people person, you don't enjoy engaging with multiple departments, this probably isn't a position you're going to enjoy.
Yeah, you definitely need to talk to people to understand like what they're looking for in a document. Many times when I've gotten like a document wrong and like, okay, we didn't ask for this, we asked for this, like, okay. And then we just like get into kind of like a conversation about like, okay, what do you need from this document? And yeah, you kind of like just need to learn their perspective on things in order for the document to be successful. It doesn't matter like how well written it is. If it's not going to help them, like there's no point in writing it or using it.
Oh yeah, that can be difficult. So you're essentially writing for different audiences.
Yes. Yeah. So you got to like switch gears a little bit as well. Engineers might expect like the document to be structured in one way, and then a customer, of course, will need it in a different way.
Okay. That's interesting. I can see that being a little bit challenging. What about, so I think I have probably two remaining questions I have in mind. I think there are a couple paths. One, someone that is exploring tech right now, right? Mm-hmm. So someone that's exploring tech and they're very open to different options. Maybe they're considering software engineering. If they come to my channel, they've looked into coding at least.
Yeah.
So someone that's kind of starting fresh, that might not have a whole lot of tech experience, might not even have a whole lot of writing experience. And then someone that is essentially a career transitioner, moving from whatever old industry they came from. going into becoming a technical writer potentially, whether you're a software engineer and you want to get into technical writing, whether you're a teacher that just likes writing on the side that wants to get into technical writing. I kind of just like want to wrap it up with like breaking down if those two paths are different and what they look like. I'm good, but I want to sum up essentially what you said first, and then you correct me.
Okay.
So someone that's kind of starting out, if I were to give someone advice based on what you said, and they were getting into technical writing, I would encourage them to essentially, you know what, let's start with someone that's like kind of interested in coding. I would encourage them to create a blog. I'd encourage them to try to document their process, include screenshots, and try to share why they made certain features, focus a little bit more on UX, right? So maybe it's not going to be someone that is like heavily back-end focused, that doesn't care about, they might not want to focus on the user or like how to present certain data to someone that's a little bit more non-technical. So I think my recommendation is whatever you do pursue in tech, kind of just practice documenting it in a blog, even create LinkedIn posts, get a little bit more comfortable with your writing. How would you, I guess you had mentioned like a master's degree, you had mentioned like a UX course, but I think a big question mark still is like, how do I get better with my writing? Do I just like pay a writer to review my content and correct it, or?
I didn't do any of those things. What I did was I just wrote like pretty frequently, like at least once a week. And it doesn't seem like much at first, but like it really adds up. Like after like, I don't know how long, I had like 30 articles already. So like could use that as portfolio or of some kind. And yeah, I guess the sort of position I had before this one, somebody did like look at my work and tell me, okay, like this is how I would change it to be more like in a marketing kind of perspective. So yeah, totally just like looking. It doesn't need to be like somebody you pay for. I think it's even more interesting to write a document and show it to somebody like you met on LinkedIn, like a mentor or something. I think they would maybe be a little bit more helpful in telling you, okay, this is what I would do in this situation, given this audience. I think they would maybe have that expertise to know like how to structure that document and what kinds of things to put in it. And if you're putting too much detail and things like that. Yeah.
Okay, that's good advice for getting feedback. When you're applying for the actual position, though, how are you presenting yourself? Like, what are the main things that you're prioritizing to like really make yourself stand out?
I usually, well, looking back, like it was a bit of a while ago, but what I did was I did post links to my blog on LinkedIn. And it was actually a recruiter who reached out to me about my current position. So I don't know exactly what I did to stand out, but all I can think of is like I just kept doing my blog, and yeah, maybe my background in English helped, or I don't know, it could have been anything really. Yeah.
Did they ask any specific questions in the interview that caught your attention?
I really liked how they gave me well, I think their process would probably be a little different now, but just going through like a project that you made. So they asked me to just create a blog post essentially on teaching a user like how to do something. And I really liked how they reviewed it with me, and I could tell they had like reviewed it beforehand and they were prepared with like questions about it. So I guess that just kind of spoke to like they had taken the time to just like research me, and yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds like it could be fun.
Yeah.
I don't know if I get nervous with that type of interview. I've gotten nervous in coding challenges before.
Me too. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
They can be rough sometimes.
Yeah.
I literally forgot, like 2 years into me being a developer, I forgot how to use React, and I've been using it for years. As soon as I went into the interview, it just like my brain shut off.
Yeah.
Okay. So it kind of, okay. So the challenge might be to essentially write mock documentation for what you might be doing for that company. And you're essentially just saying like, write, just write. And if you can't get a little feedback, find a mentor, that's great. But practice is probably going to hone that skill a bit. Okay. I think that's pretty good advice. Do you have a general like salary range that you think an entry level person should expect for this?
That's a really hard question because I looked into it too, and I'm just like, I'm still not sure, like based on like anything. Yeah. So I think it really just depends on the area that you're looking to like go into, because like San Francisco is going to be so different from Austin or things like that. So I would really recommend just looking at the area that you're applying to and kind of going off of that.
Okay. What would you say for Seattle?
Seattle. Well, this is more like a lifestyle thing, but I think I watched a video one time where it said like 80 grand is like 80 to like 100 is like the kind of like happy place where you're not like struggling for rent and you can still like go out and eat once in a while. So I would say that, but I know like there's like some which is like way lower and some that's way higher. I think it just all depends on like the company that hires you. So yeah, I don't know if there is a good range to find out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair. Because I think a lot of people that are going into tech, that is an important thing for them. They're trying to up their lifestyle. They want to make sure, whatever they're getting into, they can afford that lifestyle.
I think it's not going to be as much as like a software engineer is going to make, right? But I think it's still like comparable to like what you need to be comfortable and happy. So I think like that's something that was really important to me as well. So yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I also tossed out the scenario with like transferring from a software engineer into being a technical writer. What if the software engineer just wanted to write like tons of API documentation? Like maybe there's a big company, they join, large software engineering team. Could they join a technical writing position that just focused on API documentation for developers?
I think they could. I also started writing API documentation for my company, and it's not too much of a jump, especially if you've been like using APIs in like your projects and things like that. Like you probably have a good awareness of what makes like good API documentation and bad API documentation at that point. And there's so many like tools to help you like just like organize it and set it up. I don't think it would be too much of a problem. I think the ideal scenario though would be that you kind of write the documentation to give to the engineers to build. I think that's what I've read is like kind of like what it should be like, right? Like you're writing the directions for the API and then they build the API. In my experience, it's kind of the other way around where they have already built the API. And then as a technical writer, I step in and kind of just like write what they had built. So I think, just thinking, because like I think maybe someone in my position might have a better understanding of like what the users need from the API as well. So I think that process would work. So again, like it's all about users and who's going to be consuming your documentation. It's really important. I think that's the most important part of my job is just like really understanding how that documentation is going to be used.
You said something interesting.
Yeah.
So essentially technical writers that are writing out documentation that then the backend developers would build out, are they almost writing, do they even start with like writing the technical requirements, or are they just writing essentially like the output of the API? Do you know what they would focus on?
I guess it all depends on like what they're doing, right? So maybe you could reword that question and I can give you a better answer.
I have a feeling the answer is still going to be it depends. We'll go with that. That's completely fine.
Okay.
All right. I think I have a good feel for like what a technical writer is, how to become one. if you had to give like one final piece of advice for someone that was more seriously considering trying to get this type of position, what would it be?
Yeah, I, again, just really write blog posts and really just look into like how you're structuring your documents and discover, like, if you want to apply for a certain company, understand like their customers or their users. And I think that will put you in a really powerful position to talk about like their needs. And yeah.
Okay. A lot of really good advice. I appreciate it. Yeah, that's it. We're at the end of our episode already.
Wow.
So if people want to reach out to you and anything else you want to shout out, where could they reach you?
They can reach me on LinkedIn. It's my name, Kailana Kahawaii. And yeah, if I really enjoy helping people. So yeah, just somebody, I reached out to so many people on LinkedIn when looking for like a job, and yeah, I just want to pay it forward.
That's awesome. I think more people should try reaching out to people. People are scared to do that.
I know, I was too.
Yeah. I guess I never was. But a lot of people are. Actually, maybe that's good to ask you. If people do want to, they know they need to reach out to people on LinkedIn. How did you overcome that? Because obviously you did.
Yeah, I kind of just like looked at their LinkedIn profile and tried to find common ground with them and bring it up in like a message like, oh, I saw you wrote a blog post about this. Do you want to talk about it sometime? And things like that. So, yeah.
That's good advice.
Yes, yeah.